originally from the UK, moved here in 2001, and I was quite heartened about the Thanksgiving because whenever I'm invited to a potluck, there's expectations on me based on which aspect of my culture that potluck party is interested in. And for Thanksgiving and Christmas, the expectation is if I'm going to someone's house, I have to bring roast potatoes. By any other potluck, it's usually a curry and rice, is what they expect. But not for, so yesterday, we had an early Thanksgiving with some family friends, and so all morning I was peeling potatoes and parboiling and all of that stuff. So, as mentioned, I'm a member of the Sikh faith. And I can kind of go through about 20 minutes, it is a good time, but I'll touch on different aspects. And probably the first is the actual kind of what we call our Mool Mantra. It's the beginning prayer in our holy book, which we also consider to be our Guru. And the first letter is actually not a letter, it's a number. Ik Onkar, which means kind of one God. Then Satanam means the true name. Kartapuruk means the creator. Nirpau, Nirvair. Nirpau means without, devoid of fear. And Nirvair means kind of without rancor or anger. Akal Murut, the timeless one. A Jindi, that does not come into being born. Sepang, self-existent, and then Guru Prasad, realized by the grace of the Guru. So those for us are kind of aspects of God for us, kind of definition, and that's a version of the Mool Mantra. And as mentioned, I passed some books around which are more focused on the Sikhs in either British Columbia, or one book is specifically about Victoria. Thank you. And there's a third book called Zindagi, which was written by a lady who actually grew up in Baldi, and it's focused on the stories of the Sikh women who were here, and their stories and their, how they grew up here, and the little nuances of things that they found different from those at least who had moved here from India in the early period. So the first Guru, so in Sikhism we have a Guru, that's our teacher, our guide, our spiritual guide. And the first Guru was born in 1469, and it's Guru Nanak. After him we have Guru Angad, and Angad, it comes from the term Ang, which means from my limb. So he had another name, and Guru Nanak, when he gave the Guruship to him, passed his Guruship to him before he passed away, he called him Guru Angad, saying he's from my limb, to make it evident that the light of the Guru is going to go through these individuals. Then we had Guru Amar Das, and during his period the community was growing, so he started to create sons or leaders, some male, some female, across much of the region, and Sikhism grew out of Punjab, which is northwest of India. Now it's split between India and Pakistan. Guru Ramdas was the fourth Guru, and he created the city of Amritsar, which is a little bit more famous when it comes to thinking about the Sikhs. In fact, virtually all the Gurus created towns or cities where the congregations grew around them. Guru Arjan Dev was the fifth Guru. He formalized our holy book, our Guru, the Guru Granth Sahib. He took the writings of the preceding Gurus, as well as of Hindus and Muslims as well. So it's unique in having a holy book which isn't just focused on what the Gurus are saying. They also put in writings of other individuals as well. And I think the earliest writing is from the 1100s, and that's Sheikh Farid. And then the last writing is actually of the 9th Guru, Guru Tegh Bahadur, so it spans about 500 years. Guru Arjan Dev, because of the growth of Sikhism, it became a political issue for the Mughal government at the time, who were concerned about the number of people who were now joining the faith, and through Machiavellian methods, they arrested Guru Arjan Dev. He was severely tortured and passed away. His son then became the sixth Guru, Guru Har Gobind, and we call him the Mir Piri the Malik. He's the owner of our spiritual and temporal worlds, and they say he used to have two swords with him. And at that point, the outward martialness of the faith came in, that we realized that we needed to protect ourselves from those who wished to attack us. After Guru Hargobind was Guru Har Rai. He, I don't think was during his guruship involved in battles, but there was a lot of pressure. You know, you see it nowadays with governments trying to influence religious leaders to talk in a particular way. So similar things were happening. There was a lot of pressure on the gurus, and Guru Har Rai worked in defiance against that. He had a retinue of soldiers with him at all times, but he also was very focused on nature as well. So a lot of the stories about him are about the beauty of nature and the environment and so on. After him, it was Guru Harkrishan, who, some of the gurus did become gurus at a young age. He actually passed away at a young age as well. He had come to Delhi, which was the, the center of the government at the time, but the city was ravaged with smallpox, and he asked for the smallpox to come to him and save the city, and then he unfortunately passed away at a very young age. And after him, it was, I think it was like his great uncle, Guru Tegh Bahadur, who became the 9th Guru. And he, similar to the first Guru, actually taught a lot. So a lot of congregations across the Indian subcontinent had not met the Guru too much, because the Gurus had been focused in particular areas for preaching and in some respects for kind of defensive measures against the government. But he taught quite a bit, and again got the rancor of the government, and then he was actually arrested, and then there was an attempt to force him to convert to Islam. He refused, and then he was beheaded in Delhi as well. His son became the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, and when you see images of the Gurus, the most prominent ones are usually Guru Nanak, the first Guru, and then the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh. He formalized the holy book, which we consider to be our living Guru, put in the writings of the 9th Guru, and you are, by the way, all invited to come next door after this event, and you will see the Guru Granths out there as well, and that is what leads our prayers. It's written in raga form, so like melodies, and it's designed to be sang. So our services will be recitations of the holy book, the Guru, but also what we consider kirtan, so music as well. That's a very strong aspect of our faith. During Guru Gobind Singh's time as well, this is the late 1600s, early 1700s, he went through a number of battles against those who were opposed to him, and unfortunately during that period, his 4 sons were all killed. The older 2 sons in battle, and the younger 2 sons were executed. And for us, that's obviously a very important. They call them the Char Sahibzade, and during December time is roughly when we remember them and their martyrdoms. The term Sikh itself means a learner. So the Guru is our spiritual Guru, is our temporal Guru. He's our guide through the world, and we are the learners, the Sikhs. The Guru also passed aspects of the Guruship to the Khalsa Panth. So he initiated a ceremony for joining the Sikh faith, and those are the aspects people mostly see. So we call them the 5Ks, uncut hair. People always ask me about why didn't you cut your hair, and I always say that's the easiest one. I actually do nothing. It just grows. I do nothing about it. So it's uncut hair. We also have a comb, which can be said to be symbolic of maintaining cleanliness. We have a gara, like a bracelet. It's always, when we're doing things on our hands, they say it's to remind us to do good. People have many debates about what the meanings of these are. I'm just going to give what generally people think. We have a kirpan, which is a sword, and it's always reminding us to fight tyranny, be involved in the world. You take that off, you're no different from an ascetic or a monk, and you can switch yourself away from the world. So it reminds us to stay in the world. And then also we have breeches or underwear called a kashera. that we also wear, and it's kind of about chastity and things like that. And the rules in Sikhism aren't different between male and female, they apply to both. Those rules apply to anyone can be initiated into the Sikh faith. And also, as far as our services, when we're doing like what we call Bart, when someone's reading from the Holy Book, that's open to all as well in the Sikh faith. When you go like next door, when you first asked me, he goes, "Oh, can you come and do a talk?" And I said, "Just look out the windows right there. The Gurdwara's right next door." But it's a shame because again, you feel like the communities can sit next to each other but never talk. And I always find that so kind of discouraging, but I'm glad you guys invited me, and they said after 12 p.m. we're more than welcome to come over and I can give a quick tour. And if we time it right, there'll be langar as well. So within a Gurdwara, the main hall upstairs, it's usually upstairs, is where the Guru Granth Sahib is. We call it a darbar or a divan, and that's where you cover your head, you take your shoes off, and that's where we will come and listen to the prayers and join in with the kirtan. Every Gurdwara, every Sikh place of worship also has a langar, which is a free kitchen. So anyone can come in, it's always vegetarian, anyone can come in, and it's predominantly happening every single day. In the larger cities, there'll be 3 meals a day every day, if there's a large Sikh population, but absolutely anybody can come in. They just have to respect the protocol of the Gurdwara. Some of the big festivals we have, some of the big days we have, so Diwali's coming up, we call it Bandi Shor Divas. So that's coming up in about a week or two. And then also we have Vaisakhi, which is in April, and it's in Victoria, it's on the same day as the 10K, the TC 10K. So I always say, go to do your TC 10K in the morning, and then come to us and we'll fill you up and get those calories caught up again. But I would invite everyone to come to that. It's usually over at Cecilia, at the Gurdwara there, and Topaz does one a week earlier as well, and everyone's welcome to come and join in that. As mentioned, the first arrivals here were in 1903. Between 1903 up until 1947, there's debates. Technically we could vote, but no one was allowed to vote. One individual voted, and literally there was a manhunt for him in the early 1900s because he shouldn't have voted. So even though they were part of the British Empire, the rules here were such that they weren't allowed to vote. And the only reason everyone got the vote in 1947 was because India became an independent state. So no longer part of the British Empire, so all the individuals who've been sitting here and were now to their second and third generations were essentially had become stateless. So I think Whitehall, which ran Canada at the time, said you need to make them citizens. So that allowed everyone to become a citizen. The Komagatamuru story everyone's heard of. There was a law passed by Canada that you could only come to Canada through a continuous journey. And so they were trying to prevent anyone from India coming, because people from India had to first go to either China or Japan and from there move on. So that ship was basically fighting against the law. Everyone ends that story at the point of when they had to leave English Bay, and what they don't know is when they got back to India, the British Army shot and killed many of them at an area called Bhuj. And my great-uncle, or great-great-uncle, was part of the ship and got sent back, and he wasn't killed there, but by the time he got back to his village in Punjab, until 1947 when the British left, he was on house arrest. He could only stay in his house, or what they call a coup, like if you have acreage of land, you usually have a little building there when you're farming if you need to sleep overnight. So those are the only two places he was allowed. And ironically, by the 50s and 60s, people were beginning to emigrate out, and he forbade my family, this is on my mum's side, but forbade them from leaving. He detested the British so much. And my grandfather goes, the minute he passed, we then applied to leave to go to England. So we just couldn't go before that. So here the first Gurdwara was made in 1912, just up the hill. In Victoria, we like to show off that it was the first brick Gurdwara in Canada. The ones previously were wooden, and it's still there. It's still, it's been renovated. It was renovated in, I think, 69, and it's just gone through a third renovation as well. The second Gurdwara, the one behind us, was built in the 60s you said, right? Yeah, 60s. And then the third Gurdwara, which is near the Gorge Community Centre on Cecilia, was in the late 90s. And the community here is old, and there's been waves. So there's those who came in the early 1900s and essentially were kind of trapped here. They couldn't really go back because they knew if they left the country they wouldn't be allowed back in. And then after Trudeau in the 60s, immigration opened up, a wave came then, and then they've been coming ever since. There was a larger wave in the 80s and 90s, because the Sikhs were butting heads with Indian government. There was a genocide going on, so a lot of them escaped, and they got given refugee status here in the 80s and 90s. And the recent wave, I would say, is probably a lot of international students coming over. And unfortunately, the kind of discrimination and the things you saw happening in the 1900s still happens today, depending where they are on the kind of socio-economic ladder and exactly what their status is. So international students do a lot of frontline jobs. You'll see them working in retail, security, but these, especially security, can be risky jobs as well. And then a lot of them have been having mental health issues and financial issues as well. I actually belong to a group called Khalsa Aid. It started in 1999 in the UK, and we're a humanitarian relief group. So one of the aspects of Sikhi or the Sikh faith is seva, or service. It's a fundamental part of our faith. So even when I was very grateful for the honorarium, but to me it's like I'm coming here as seva. So receiving money would be, it goes against my belief, but doing service to others is very important to us. And so we started this humanitarian relief group. We're across the world. It's about 26 years. Within Canada, we have about 13, 14 chapters across the country. And it's mostly poverty reduction, helping food banks replenish their stocks. And we have 2 or 3 major events we do. In April, which is the Saki, Sikh Heritage Month, we do a massive food drive across the country. Unfortunately, I think 1/3 of food bank users are children, which a lot of people don't realize. So we do a big drive then because we try to replenish the food banks, during April, May, knowing that in June, a lot of kids are going to come home, and those who are on meal programs are going to have difficulty being fed at home. So those families really rely on their local food banks. In August, September, we do a big back-to-school drive. We focus primarily on Indigenous children, or children who are either Indigenous schools or children in Indigenous dominated schools. And it's part of our effort to remember, or our activity with respect to Truth and Reconciliation Day. So we combine the back to school. So here we went to Taslip Nation, the native school out in Saanich, and SD 61 also has an Indigenous department. So we ask them what they require, and we provide back to school supplies to them. And then in December, as part of remembrance of the Jar Sahibs are there, who, as I mentioned, 2 died in battle and the younger 2 were executed, and their grandmother passed away as well. She was looking after them. It was after a battle, everyone got split up, they got captured. The grandma and the younger 2 children got taken to some fort. There was attempts to convert them, that failed, so they were executed, and they're under 10, 11 years old. But in remembrance of them, we will do predominantly a clothing drive for youth at risk, because we know that with the Chote Sahibs are there, they were kept in this tower, and the towers are designed for summer, so some of the towers are very cool. So the way the air flows, they're intentionally designed to be cooling during the summer heat, but those same towers during the winter time are freezing cold. And they were intentionally put in those cold towels to make them suffer more. And so we kind of take that story and we try to remember the youth, especially in Canada, where it's so cold, with the exception of Victoria, living out on the streets. So we work with a number of shelters and youth charities across the country, and we'll probably start that project in about a month, where we'll reach out to them and ask them what kind of items they need. So in town here, we work with Out of the Rain Shelter, Threshold Housing, and the Foundry Clinic, which is downtown. So we'll reach out to them every year, and usually one or two other charities as well, just to see what they require. And on a monthly basis, we're doing activities across the country. Here every month, I think it's the last Sunday of every month, we do what we call a langar, free food. We'll do a meal at our place shelter. So, and that's usually the Gurdwara will cook the meal with us, and then we'll take it over. Yeah, cooking for 400 or 500 people is nothing for the Sikhs. It's just like, if whoever comes with me will show you the items they have in the kitchen, how large they are. But that pretty much sums up most of things. You'd mentioned Baldi. I think a lot of people don't realise, and it's in one of the books, you'll see the images, but when you go to Beacon Hill, you go top of the hill and you see that big mast, the flag, the Canada flag. The mast, it's actually on there, was donated by Mayo Singh and his wife Resham Kaur, and there's still a plaque there on the flag remembering that they donated the mast for that. So Sikhs in Canada, despite the discrimination that they've often suffered, have been an integral part. A lot of the initial Sikhs who came to Canada were all ex-soldiers. So one of the jobs, when I was doing my research, what I noticed, one of the jobs that they often won contracts for, in Victoria they passed rules not to give any government contracts to Sikhs, but in Vancouver they would. But one of the jobs they got was for dynamiting pathways to make roads. So that, because they were ex-soldiers, it was easier to give them those contracts. So a lot of the paths, Granville Island and other places where you had to dynamite the street just to make the pathway, they got those contracts. And here the vast majority of them lived in Chinatown. That's kind of where they were allowed to live. They weren't allowed really to marry. I always enjoyed listening to white supremacists talking about whiteness, and I'm like, I'm from England, there's a hierarchy amongst the Caucasian population as well. So you could not marry anyone who was Anglo-Saxon Protestant, but you could marry a spinster because she couldn't have any children, or you could marry Catholics, Irish, or South Americans who are here. So it sounds silly, but that's literally the way the system was then. Until 1919, they would not allow any of the wives to come, because they knew that if a wife comes, they have children, they will settle. The desire was come, work and leave. Until 1919, they passed the law, but they made so many other rules it was almost impossible to get your wives to come out. So it was pretty interesting. But yeah, so that's kind of a brief rundown of 500 years of Sikh history and 100 years of Sikh history in Victoria. But I hope it gives you an insight, and please do have a look at those books. They're really, really good books. So thank you very much.